Hey guys, Youngblood with you, and in today's journey through the star map, I wanted to stop off in a nice middle ground location, and that's going to be Corel. Now, Corel was first discovered back in 2449, and it was initially a pretty quiet and sleepy little system surrounding the G-type star. Now, based on the location of the system and the treaties that had just been signed by the Banu, as well as the humans, the system ended up becoming our meeting place between our two races and sort of the unofficial border patrol area. And Corellians have this almost interesting blend of our two species, with some being a little bit Wild West oriented, kind of combined with the bureaucratic order of the Banu. The place is said to be both laid back and efficient, which actually sounds like a pretty nice combo. Now, the first planet in orbit is a star-scorched inner world that's not really unique in that aspect. However, at some point in the past, the crust and mantle had been just totally destroyed and blasted away, which ended up resulting in the molten iron core being exposed to the exterior of space, and eventually it became this sort of metal cue ball that ends up orbiting the star. Now, technically, this could be a very nice mining location, basically knowing that iron is easily accessible, but there's a lot of different options that are easier and safer to do that harvesting at than there is just that close to the star. So technically you could go do some mining, but it would be a very dangerous place to do that. And while Corel 1 is, basically all core at this point, Corel 2 is the total opposite, being a totally coreless world, which means it has no magnetic field and no atmosphere. And while Corel 1 is a crappy candidate for mining, Corel 2 is actually a really great location for mining because it's got a very mineral-rich surface. And technically, it's a candidate for terraforming because it is in the green band. I say technically because it just hasn't been established yet, and I think it might be kind of a poor terraforming candidate, but it could be done since it's right on that border. Now, the UEE does own the mining rights today, but those are supposed to be going up for auction relatively soon in the future. Corel 3 is known as Low, and it's where all the action happens at on this planet. And this is the location of the trade hubs and all the customs lanes and the shipments that are heading between the two empires. That's where this all has to happen. And the planet has some nice variety when it comes to the landscapes, with some massive plain areas called the Coughs, small bordering towns, with just very few residents. And then you've got massive shipping and customs areas that are built up, especially in places like New Junction. And it isn't necessarily uncommon to see a huge traffic pile up at this location while people are waiting for their inspections and they have to fill out the necessary paperwork. And it's said that occasionally these wait times can climb up to 12 hours. But it's not always that bad. Now, I'm trying to keep my fingers crossed and say in-game they're not going to make us wait 12 hours, but there's probably going to be expected to be delays at a location like this. And for those of you that are thinking about smuggling, you probably need to have some level of high-quality protection in place, because while only 1 in 10 are actually selected for a walk-around throughout the ship, every ship has a lot of scans that are going to be probing every corner of the ship. And in New Junction, it is relatively built up, meaning that there's going to be a guard force that's present to try and help cut down on criminal activity. That being said, this seems like a place with a real possibility for some shady business before heading back to space, to the space of your people with some alien contraband. Especially if you don't want to have to go through all these really hardcore customs checks. You fly in, you just land, you do your selling at this location, then head back to space. You're not actually proceeding into the other empire. So I think that kind of a smuggling and black market might naturally kind of spur up somewhere in this system. And while New Junction is pretty populated, the dust storms that get kicked up do tend to give off a lot of that Old West feeling here. Bottom line, though, is it may look Old West, but new money and cargo is flowing through here at an ever-increasing pace. So don't expect it to be some sleepy town. There's a lot of money happening here. The fourth planet in Corel is known as Castor, and it's barely outside of the green band in the system. And this place turned out to be a pretty big disaster overall when it comes to terraforming, because the over-cocky Messer administration said the hell with it and tried to terraform anyway, even though they knew it was going to be a bad choice. So billions of credits later, this floating frozen desert planet turned into a floating desert planet with a tiny bit of atmosphere. Which means that now the only people that actually live here work in frozen research facilities or on some short mining contracts to harvest the silica from the deserts. But basically, Everybody hates this place, with the exception of luxury traders, which could be a lot of you, because bored and lonely people stuck on this planet are going to need some things to help pass the time, and they're going to be very willing and able to buy your goods that you're selling there. Corel 5 is a gas giant that became very popular for refueling, especially when you're talking about being between two major destinations in empires. So the red and brown gas giant, it gives a nice scene where you're going to see a mix of Banu and human ships. Corel 6 is a relatively small planet in orbit, much different than the rest of the other planets. And that was probably destined to become the inter-species black market location. But based on the police presence here in the system, it's just so good that it hasn't been established to this point yet. Now, Corel is definitely going to be a place where we're going to see traders spending some time, especially if you're wanting to capitalize on the ability to trade with both species. This might be a nice homeworld so you can deal with both easily. And based on the long waits and what we know about the Banu merchantman, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see some crazy police chases involving a merchantman running blockades by deciding not to wait in line. I think this is a place custom built for traders, but not just to come through, but also to bring goods to Castro and Low. As their economies really seem to kind of rely on those shipping lanes being in place, there's almost this weird vibe like they're cut off in a way. On the edge of two civilizations, not really a part of either. It's almost like a story like that, but I feel like there's always going to be something happening in the system. Smugglers are going to do well. I think, people that are interested in selling on the black market, I think there is going to be a presence here. I think pirates could do well. There's going to be a lot of shipping, so especially if you can grab people before they get through a jump gate. And then that trade-off obviously means that escorts are going to be important. But trading, I think, is going to be number one. Mining should have some possibilities, but it's not going to be space mining. It's going to be on a planet. So we need to get more aspects about the game, those mechanics in place, to really know how successful you're going to be with that. So that's the Corel system. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have questions about it, please let me know. Otherwise, stay tuned for more content very soon. Have yourselves a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you guys later. Take care.